Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here for another episode of Storycraft. And this one, we are part 4 in our long winding tale of Theseus and the Minotaur. And we are finally talking about Theseus and the Minotaur. I hope that you guys have been enjoying this so far. It's been really fun to tell this story and get all the parts and the pieces into play. I'm having a grand time. I hope that you guys are too. If you missed the previous episodes, check the Storycraft playlist in the description below so that you can catch up and find out where we're at and where we're going. I will give you our tiny recap, but first, business. I have a Patreon. And I have told myself that I'm going to start talking about it, so you guys could check it out and see. And I appreciate the support of the people over there who have been supporting me this whole time. The new people who have joined, thank you so much. I really appreciate your faces. But yeah, I have one, and I do cool things and videos and offerings and craft with me's and behind the scenes. And this month for October, I'm reading them scary stories. So if you are looking for your scary story fix, you could get them at the $5 level. Get some stories on the podcast. I have a podcast on Patreon where I talk about all sorts of stuff. But mostly movies and spooky things and witchy things. And occasionally I rant. But you guys know that. You're here on this channel. I think you're prepared for that. Yeah, that's the business. That's what I got. Povember's coming soon. And let's get into the story. So, to recap, we have met Daedalus, the inventor. We know that he made the labyrinth. We have met Minos and Pasiphae and how they have managed to come up with the monster child of the Minotaur. And we've also gotten to see Theseus as a youth grow up and become a great hero and just a regular foot journey from his kingdom to his father's kingdom. So now here we are at Athens with the home of his father, home of Theseus' father, King Aegeus, who is known by most as the king of justice and peace, which is an interesting choice, and we'll see. So what's happened is at this time, Athens is kind of going through it. They're struggling a little bit. They lost a war. They're now having to hand over 7 youths and 7 maidens every year to King Minos of Crete because they lost a war, so they have to hand them over as tribute. And King Aegeus has some cousins who are like, we should actually be ruling Athens. Like, we're actually better at it than this old fool. Because King Aegeus is really old, you guys. Like, he's as old as Theseus' grandfather. Which is very interesting because he left Theseus' mother pregnant with his child on a mountain and was like, deuces. When he could have just brought her home to wife. But didn't. So, I don't know what he was doing, but he spent most of his time wandering around, not getting married and leaving children in strange places. So, King of Justice, yeah. So, at this point, because he is an old man, he has really wanted an heir and has sort of considered that his heir or his child with Atra is maybe not a son like he wants, at least, or never happened, because he doesn't care. He never checked up on this child once. The child being Theseus in question, this child. So what has happened is that Medea, the witch of Colchis, has taken up residence in his court. She has provided him a son, although it's very questionable if the son is actually his. The legitimacy of this child is kind of up in the air, and it seems like he's old enough that he's like, yeah, I don't really care if it's mine, just so, I can name this kid my heir, but, I haven't done it yet because I'm not really sure it's mine. That's the kind of situation we're in. And if you guys want me to talk to you about Medea and tell you her story is actually tied up with Jason and the Golden Fleece, the story of Jason and the Argonaut, so I would have to do that as a separate epic tale like we are doing now. But if you are interested, definitely let me know, and I will work on that. But we're not going to go into Medea's entire backstory. What you need to know is that Medea is a witch who is now in the king's ear because she is looking out for the best interest of herself and her son. That is what Medea does. She is 100% about herself and her son. So she's in this king's ear. She hears about this hero who's coming to town, and she's like, I don't like it. I got a bad feeling about it. And when Theseus gets to the gates of Athens, he's like, I would love to have an audience with the king. The people are coming out to greet him. They are celebrating him. His legend has already reached Athens. Everyone knows about the hero Theseus and how he has cleaned up the road for travelers from the kingdom of Trojan all the way to the kingdom of Athens. And again, I have not yet looked up where Trojan is. I'm assuming it's a far way away because he met every freaking cast of characters in the cast of characters. He met the whole cast on the way there. So, like, it's got to be far. So he's cleaned up this road, made it safe for everybody. Everybody knows his name. Everybody's excited to see him. And the king's like, well, yeah, totally. Like, I want this hero to come to my house. And instead of just being like, hey, tell my dad that I'm here, Theseus is like, oh no, he's going to see that I look just like my mother, and he's going to see me, and he's going to be like, oh my god, my long lost son. So Theseus is really like romanticizing this in his head instead of just being straightforward and communicating. And Medea is like, I'm going to use this to my advantage because I don't like this guy, and I don't like the fact that this guy might be like a threat to me. And she also knows, because she's a witch and she's in touch with like the universe, right? She knows that Theseus is King Aegeus' son. So she's like, yeah, I definitely don't want him to recognize him. So she starts spitting words into his ear. She starts telling the king, like, I think this guy's a traitor. I think he's here to kill you. I think he's actually a really bad guy. I don't think he's a hero at all. And the king is old. He's feeble. He's also like addled by all of her spells. If you need an example of how this looks, just go to Lord of the Rings. If you guys remember Grimoire Wormtongue being in the King of Rohan's ear, it's like that. That's how Medea is. She's in his ear like, he means you harm, he means you ill will, like, don't trust him. Like, she's in his ear like that. And so the king's like, oh yeah, I think he is kind of a traitor. I don't know what to do though. So she's like, it's okay, I'm gonna make him a poison. I'm gonna take care of him, lickety split, no big deal. So the king's like, yeah, definitely, make him a poison, you take care of it. We won't have to worry about this traitor trying to kill me or nothing, because he's super paranoid. Remember, his cousins are trying to take over his throne, so now this random young man shows up, and the people love him. It's not hard to convince him that Theseus is a traitor who's going to kill him. So at dinner, they bring a big feast. There's a big meal. He's telling all the people about his travels. Everyone is kikiing. They're having a good time. And then he goes to take a sip from his glass of wine, and Medea puts her hand over it, and she's like, no. You're a guest in our home. You should drink from a cup made of gold, and you'll have a king's daughter serve you, because she's a king's daughter, right? So she hands him this very elaborately decorated gold cup, and he picks it up, and he's looking at her, and he looks at his dad, who has not recognized him at all. So he's like, I don't know what's going on. My dad should have recognized me. How come he doesn't remember what my mom looks like from like 18 years ago? He should remember that. And he's looking at how everybody's looking at him. The king looks a little bit nervous. He's tapping the table nervously, and he's like, okay, I've been on the road with all these crooks long enough to know that there are some shenanigans afoot. There's some stuff going on. So he's like, all right. So he puts his wine cup in one hand, and he's like, thank you so much. What a gracious offer. I love this so much. And then he pulls his sword up, and as he goes to like pretend to cut a piece of meat like a fucking heathen with his sword, his dad's like, that's my sword, and he jumps up and he knocks the cup out of his hand, and he's like, this is my son, my baby boy. So he starts hugging him, and he's like rejoicing. Everyone's cheering. Medea's like, the jig is up. So she gathers up her son, and she escapes in the night before anyone can be like, Medea tried to poison the future king of Athens. Like, she nopes out of there because Medea is a real one. So she got out. So Aegeus is so excited. He's like, this is my son, this is my heir. His cousins are mad, but they can't really do anything about it because Theseus is a fucking hero, right, at this point? So they're like, well, we can't like generate instability and doubt in our ruler if he's a cool like hero guy. That's not gonna work. And Theseus gets in as thick as thieves with everybody in the palace again. So, because he's a really likable guy. He's charming. He's really personable. You know, he has all these skills. So everyone's like just amazed by him. Everywhere he goes, he manages to impress people. So he's really getting in good with like the people in the court, the people in the city of Athens. Like, they're all like, oh my god, I can't believe Theseus is here. Brighter days are ahead of us. And this is when Theseus hears about how they lost the war and they have to make this tribute every year. And the time has come to select 7 youths and 7 maidens to send them over to the king of Crete. And he's like, we're Athenians, we're free people, what the fuck? This is unjust and disgusting. That's not how tributes work. Like, we can send him some money, but we're not going to keep sending him all of our young people. What the hell? He's like, how come no one's even trying to bother to kill the Minotaur? Like, why has nobody done that? And then they're like, because they don't let you bring weapons into the labyrinth, duh. And so he's like, okay, I happen to be young, dumb, and full of strength, so I am gonna go kill the Minotaur. I'm gonna solve this problem right here and then. We're gonna take care of this lickety split because I'm not playing this game with King Minos. And so his dad's like, oh no, 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 we only pick from the poor people and you're nobility, so we never pick from nobility. And Theseus is like, hey, I don't give a fuck who you're picking from. I'm volunteering as tribute. My name is Katniss, I'm from District 11. I'm just kidding. So he volunteers. Despite the king's protest. And then even, like, the people of the court are like, please, no, Theseus, we love you so much. And he's like, shut up, I'm gonna save the day and you guys are gonna keep loving me. This is how it goes, this is how it works. So he ends up joining the 7 youths, well, the 6 youths plus Theseus, and the 7 maidens on the boat. And King Minos is there to, like, pick up his tribute, and he's like, the fuck is this? This kid who's obviously different than the rest of them. This kid who is yoked. He is stacked. He is full of muscles like nobody would believe. Who is this? This is not an ordinary youth. And the King of Jesus is like, oh, this is my son. He wanted to go. And Theseus is like, yeah, I'm going to go. And since I'm a king's son, you should let me have a sword in the labyrinth because I'm a king's son. And he's like, no, my name is King Minos, not Fool Minos. Get on the boat and don't insult me again. So they let Theseus onto the boat. King Minos is like, okay, whatever, you want to send your son to slaughter, great, love that for you, because you killed my son in the battle which I won, so yes, this is why we're doing this. King Aegeus tells Minos, like, hey, you're leaving on a boat with black sails. The boat's going to come back with black sails, but if you live, make sure that you change the sails to white so that I know you survived. And Theseus is like, yeah, no problem, Pops, I gotcha. So they set out to sail. And every day after that, King Aegeus will wait on the precipice to look out and see the day that his son's ship is going to return. So he is waiting every day for his sweet baby boy, who he never cared about until he showed up at the front door, to return. And by the time that they get to Minos' kingdom on the Isle of Crete, the entire ship is charmed by Theseus. Everybody is like, oh my god, this guy is so cool. Everybody except for Minos, because King Minos is a bastard. He's also not a fool, still. So he knows charm when he sees charm. He knows game. Game recognizes game, right? So he's like, okay, whatever. And it gets to the point where, like, they're like, well, we can't treat him poorly because he's the son of a king, even though we are sending him off to be slaughtered by the Minotaur. So people treat him nicely. They bring him into the court. They tell his story. He tells his stories about all of his adventures in the court. And while he's, like, yapping 9,000 in the court, there happens to be somebody watching him, and it's Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. King Minos has 2 daughters. The other one is Phaedra. We're not going to talk about her today. She's actually not relevant to the story, but we are going to talk about Ariadne. So Ariadne is the oldest daughter of King Minos, and she spends a lot of her time hanging out with Daedalus because she's a smart girl. She likes smart things, and Daedalus is a smart guy who does smart things and will share his knowledge with anybody who's looking to learn. So Ariadne is very clever, very smart, and also very smitten with this young, handsome youth who has now entered her father's court and is regaling everybody with his tales while in shackles because he's about to be fed to her brother, the Minotaur. So in the middle of the night, she sneaks down to the dungeon where Theseus is being kept with the other tributes, and she's like, hey, come over here. So, she calls him up to the cell, what do you call it? The bars. There it is. Words are really hard. She calls him over to the bars, and she's like, oh my god, you are so good looking, and just, like, brushing her hair behind her ear, and she's just like, oh my god, you're so cute. And he's like, oh my god, you're so cute too. If I wasn't about to die, I'd totally be into you. And she's like, are you serious? Are you for real? And he's like, yeah, for real, for real. So then, like, they have their little flirting thing, and she's like, okay, well, let me get you out of here, and I'll show you something real quick before they send you down there. And he's like, yeah, let's show me something. Show me anything. Leave my toga on. What do you mean? And she's like, no, leave it on. I'm going to show you something. Like, literally, I'm going to walk you down here. We're not going to down here and fuck. Are you crazy? I'm a princess. I don't just do that. And he's like, yeah, totally, yeah. Who would have thought that's what you wanted, though? That's so weird. So he follows her, and she takes him to a secret exit for the labyrinth, because Daedalus is the only guy who knows how to map the labyrinth. He built the labyrinth, right? But he also told Ariadne how to do it, because she's a smart girl and she likes smart things, but also she cares about her brother, the Minotaur. Surprisingly, when nobody else does, she likes to go visit him at a safe distance, a safe, respectable distance, leave him little gifts, which she can kind of tell that he appreciates, because she cares about her brother, and she's just like, it sucks that you're down here, and I don't know what to do because you're a monster who eats people, but, like, here's a little toy, here's a little treat, take care of yourself, brother. And then she hotfoots it out of the labyrinth, right? So she takes him down here and she's like, this is the exit from the labyrinth that you can get in and out of the labyrinth without anyone seeing you. And if you go in here and you take this ball of golden thread that Daedalus gave me, you tie it to a post, it'll show you the way through the labyrinth and you'll be able to follow it back to get out. So he's like, great. And then she's like, here's also this sword that I was hiding in my skirt. It's your sword. So if you wanted to maybe take care of things and then take me with you, that would be great. Because I can't stay here once I betray my father, who happens to be a madman. So yeah, if we could work that out. And he's like, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to go kill your brother, the Minotaur, and then I'm going to come back, I'm going to take you, we're going to get on my ship, and we're going to go. And she's like, great. So he sneaks into the labyrinth through this secret door. He ties the string to a post. He drops it on the ground. Guess what the little golden ball does? It's a mechanical wonder of nature. It rolls off and starts to guide him through the labyrinth. So he's like, great. So he doesn't even have to think about the way through the labyrinth. And he follows this golden thread as it's rolling until he finds the Minotaur. This is going to be the most anticlimactic thing possible. He kills the Minotaur. He actually does it fairly easily, even though it was a little bit of a strain on his soul. A great battle ensues. Imagine it in your brain. I don't know how to describe it, but he fights the Minotaur, and he actually ends up slaying the Minotaur fairly easily because it's just a bull on the body of a man. It's a bullhead on a body of a man. It's not actually that terrifying unless you have no weapon. Then it's a little bit terrifying. But it is a great big thing with like drool coming out of its nostrils and like mouth and all sorts of stuff, snot everywhere. It's huffing, it's puffing, and he stabs it and it kills it. It's dead. So he kills the Minotaur. And he ends up picking up the string and following it all the way back through, taking the path back. He comes back out the exit. By this point, it's been hours he's been inside the labyrinth, so it took him longer to travel the labyrinth than it did to kill the Minotaur. So when he gets out of there, he comes out, his sword is all covered in blood. Ariadne's like beside herself because she's like, oh my god, I just sent the boy that I like to go get killed by my brother. This is so fucked up on so many levels. And then when she sees him, she's like, oh my god, Theseus, why were you taking so long? And he's like, girl, I had to go through a whole ass labyrinth and then fight a Minotaur. How many people do you know do this? It takes time. So she's like, okay, I was just so worried about you and I didn't know what to do. So he's like, well, come on. We gotta get out of here. We don't have time to talk about it. So he takes her. They take the other tributes. They escape in the middle of the night. They get back on the ship and they're in such a rush to escape that they don't even think about changing the sails. They just take off. And they sail for a day and a half until they find an island, the island of Naxos, where they decide to set up camp and rest for the day because they're like so exhausted from this fleeing from King Minos. Because remember, King Minos has a powerful fleet, so they have to escape the Cretan fleet, and it's a threat constantly because his ships are still, at this point, still backed by Papa Poseidon on the seas, even though Poseidon's like a little salty about this bull. He's like, alright, we're even. This Minotaur shit has been really fun. So he's still backed by Poseidon. He's still getting his ships out there. They're still sailing faster than anybody else. So there's a lot of like high stakes at work here. But so they decide to camp out though for a night at the island of Naxos because everybody is so tired and exhausted from their journey. So they have a big party. Turns out there's a bunch of wine already there. They're having a good old time. And then at the night, Theseus is like, hey, I'm going to take you home and marry you when we get to Athens anyways. So like maybe we could hook up. And she's like, I don't know, I'm a princess, like we don't just kind of do that. And then after a little bit more wine, he manages to convince her that he's going to marry her anyway, so they hook up that night. And then what happens is in the morning, in the early hours before the sun rises, one of the guys is like, oh my god, I think I see a sail, I think the ships are coming. So everybody panics, they jump up, they all rush to the ship, and they start sailing away. But at this point, Theseus is like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. It's Ariadne. He left her on the island, you guys. And this is why I will forever, ever think that Theseus is the worst person. Because we could have turned the ship around to go get her, but no, we did not. We continue to sail because he's like, I already hit it. Like, I don't need to go back. I got what I wanted. And he continues to sail on. Don't worry though, you guys. Ariadne makes it out of this okay, because after spending several days alone on this island, sobbing bitterly and hysterically because she has been left behind with nowhere to go and no way to get off the island, turns out that the island of Naxos happens to be sacred to the god Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry and also madness. My favorite, the OG, Dionysus, right? So Dionysus shows up, he's like, hey girl, look at you here on my island, looking all fine as fucking shit. And she's like, oh, thanks. Like, I got left behind by this guy I really liked. And he's like, well, that's some bullshit. Why don't you marry me, come up to Olympus, and be my godly wife, and be immortal with me forever? And she's like, actually, that's a better offer than I could have possibly hoped to have. So yeah, I'm down to live immortality with the beautiful god Dionysus and party it up with my wine husband. So that's what she does. She joins Dionysus. He takes her up in his chariot up to the heavens. He takes her crown, which was the crown that she wore when she was princess of Crete, and tosses it into the sky, and you can still see the stars from the jewels in her crown in the sky to this day. So Ariadne makes it out of this okay, despite having one bad boyfriend in her youth. And, you know, that's like a woman experience. We've all had a bad boyfriend in our youth. So, Theseus continues to race away, and they continue to sail quickly back home to his kingdom of Athens. But here's the problem, you guys. If you remember, they didn't change the sails because they were in such a rush. And that was the one thing his father said. So when his father, who has been waiting every day to see when he's going to come home, sees the ships show up on the horizon with the black sails, he throws himself off the precipice because he thinks his son is done. His son, who he never cared about till he showed up at his doorstep 18 years later, who then immediately disappeared to go on this quest, who he had no connection or familial ties to outside of some genetics. Yeah, he was so upset at the loss of his son and only heir that he threw himself off of the precipice and he dies. So by the time Theseus gets home, he's like, everybody's celebrating and rejoicing, but they're also in mourning, and he's confused because the whole city is really sad and upset. And then he realizes that he fucked up. He fucked up because he forgot to change the sails, and he is directly responsible for his father's death, which would be his fourth or his third fucking failure, because he had two before, that he failed the third time. He never fails again after that, except you know, when he gets older, he becomes an adult. He becomes a great king, a powerful, noble king. Everybody loves him. They're like, oh, this is amazing. We love this. This guy is so good. He's such a great king. He fights with the Amazons. He ends up getting one of their queens to become his wife. Love the patriarchy for making that story up. And he battles centaurs. He wins. And then at one point, I guess after he was done being married to his Amazonian queen, he decides that he wants to go down to the underworld and carry off Persephone to be his new queen. It does not go well. Hades is not sharing his wife or giving her up for any reason, and he ends up trapped in the underworld for years until he ends up being rescued by Heracles. And he doesn't actually come back to power after that. He actually lives a very sad, pathetic life on the island of Skyros, and eventually he manages to make it back to Athens at some point where he maybe died, but he also maybe died on the island. It's sort of questionable what happens to him after that. When the Greeks battle the Persians at the Battle of Marathon, they end up winning with their tiny army over the Persians. You saw this story in 300. They say that it was King Theseus who rose from the dead to lead them all to glory. And they actually did find a burial site on the island of Skyros with a skeleton that would have been taller than most of the people were at that time, who had a bronze-headed spear and a sword, and they assumed that this was the bones of Theseus, who had died on the island, and they brought him back to Athens and gave him a proper burial. So there is a tomb of Theseus, and he's just always been sort of lauded as the great king of Athens, even though he didn't really do that many great things after he became king. In fact, he maybe peaked in his youth and then had a downward spiral that was a little sad and pathetic afterwards. But that is the end of the tale of King Theseus and the Minotaur. It is not the end of this series, though, because I have one more story to tell you, because if you guys remember, Daedalus and his son Icarus are still being held prisoner in a tower by King Minos, and they have one more story to tell. So next time we're going to do that, and we're going to wrap up this whole saga. So if you guys like this, let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, guys, I appreciate your faces. Happy crafting, and goodbye!